Alex took a deep breath, standing at the entrance of the Galactic Academy. It was nothing like he had expected. The Academy's towering spires seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky, with arcane symbols floating mid-air, illuminating the marble pathways below. Students bustled around, some gliding through the air, others conjuring up spells with a flick of their hands. It was a surreal, almost intimidating sight. Alex had always known this day would come. He'd studied hard to earn his place here, despite being fully aware of how he would be perceived. Weak, inferior, human. In a school where every student wielded some form of magical prowess, Alex was an anomaly. He possessed no inherent magical ability. In his world, however, he was considered extraordinary, a genius even. His technical aptitude was unmatched, but here, his brilliance seemed trivial next to students who could manipulate the elements. He moved through the crowds, clutching his sparse belongings. The few humans who had been here before had never risen far in the Academy's ranks, each eventually sidelined by their lack of magical abilities. Alex was determined to be different, though he could already feel the stares, the murmurs, the smirks. The Academy had once been a place of wonder in his mind, but now it felt like a cage he would have to escape from. As Alex made his way to his dorm, he noticed a group of students levitating small orbs of energy, practicing spells and casually chatting. One of them, a tall figure with glowing blue skin, noticed Alex and sneered. "Hey, look, a human. Wonder how he thinks he'll get by without any powers," the figure jeered, laughing with his friends. "Maybe he's here to sweep the floors?" The others laughed, and Alex felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment. He tried to ignore them, keeping his head down as he continued walking. But the encounter had left him rattled. He knew he'd be facing skepticism, but the open disdain was worse than he had anticipated. Once in his room, Alex tried to shake off the incident. He knew that surviving here would be about more than just getting through his classes. It would be about proving himself every single day. He unpacked his belongings and pulled out his personal tablet, filled with notes on everything from physics to advanced mechanics. It wasn't magic, but it was his strength, and he'd need to hold on to that. The next day, Alex attended his first set of classes, each more overwhelming than the last. In basic elemental manipulation, he watched as his peers summoned fire and bent water with ease. In Telekinesis 101, students floated objects around the room, laughing as they made chairs dance through the air. Meanwhile, Alex sat at the back, furiously scribbling notes, trying to make sense of it all. By the end of the day, he was drained, but determined not to give up. He wandered through the corridors, exploring the Academy's labyrinthine halls, which seemed to go on forever. That's when he stumbled upon a dimly lit room, tucked away in a corner of the building. The door was slightly ajar, and inside, he saw something that made his heart race. In the center of the room stood a suit of armor, unlike any he had ever seen. It was sleek, almost futuristic, with an iridescent glow that pulsed faintly. Intricate lines of circuitry ran across the surface, and its design was like nothing he had encountered in any of his textbooks. Alex felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as if the armor was calling out to him. Looking around to ensure he was alone, Alex stepped inside. He approached the armor, his fingers tingling with anticipation as he reached out to touch it. The moment his hand made contact, a surge of energy shot through him, and a voice echoed in his mind. "Welcome, bearer. Do you wish to activate the Sentinel?" Startled, Alex looked around, but there was no one else in the room. The armor was somehow alive, or at least intelligent. He hesitated, considering the risks. He knew nothing about the Sentinel or its purpose, but something told him this was his chance to finally stand on equal footing with his peers. "Yes," he whispered, his voice steady. "Activate the Sentinel." The armor's panels slid open, inviting him to step inside. With a deep breath, Alex entered, and the suit closed around him, sealing him within. The moment the last piece locked into place, he felt a rush of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. The armor integrated with his body, amplifying his strength, enhancing his senses. He could feel its energy coursing through him, synchronizing with his heartbeat. As he took his first steps in the armor, Alex felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He wasn't just a human at the Galactic Academy anymore. He was something more, something powerful. and for the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt hope. The sentinel armor felt both familiar and foreign to Alex as he moved through the deserted corridors of the academy. Every step was effortless, the suit adapting to his movements with fluid precision. He couldn't help but marvel at the technology. It was far beyond anything he had ever seen on Earth. It was as if the armor was a perfect fusion of magic and machinery, blending the best of both worlds. Alex wanted to test the Sentinel's capabilities. After wandering through the hallways, he found an empty training room. It was a vast chamber filled with various obstacles and training dummies, likely used by other students to hone their combat skills. As he stepped into the room, the armor's HUD heads-up display flickered to life, outlining the features of his surroundings. A panel on his left forearm emitted a faint glow, displaying a range of abilities he could access, each one labeled in alien script. He barely understood the characters, but the icons provided some clues: enhanced strength, speed, and defensive shields, among others. He chose to start with the simplest feature and activated the strength enhancer. Instantly, he felt a surge of energy. With a grin, he approached one of the training dummies and threw a punch. The dummy flew across the room, crashing against the wall with a force that startled even him. Alex let out a laugh of astonishment. He hadn't even felt the impact. It was as if the armor had absorbed the shock entirely. Encouraged, he tried another feature, the speed boost. He tapped the icon on the display, and suddenly, everything around him seemed to slow down. He darted across the room, covering the length of it in a matter of seconds. He was faster than he'd ever been, his movements almost a blur. He continued testing the armor's abilities, experimenting with defensive shields and tactical maneuvers. The armor seemed to anticipate his actions, adjusting to his style as he moved. He felt invincible, as if he had finally found something that could compensate for his lack of magical abilities. But as he reveled in the armor's power, the door to the training room slid open. Startled, Alex turned to see a group of students entering, their eyes widening as they took in the sight of him in the Sentinel. At the front of the group was Talia, one of the academy's top students. Her emerald-green robes shimmered with arcane energy, and her gaze was sharp and calculating. Behind her were two other students, both well known for their elemental magic prowess. Alex tensed, uncertain of their intentions. Well, what do we have here?" Talia said, crossing her arms. The humans found himself a toy. Alex braced himself, ready for the inevitable mockery, but Talia's expression shifted from amusement to interest. "Interesting. I've heard of the Sentinel, but I never thought I'd see it activated, let alone by someone like you." One of the students behind her snickered. "That armor won't make you one of us, human. You're still weak compared to real magic." Alex clenched his fists, feeling the armor's energy humming in response to his emotions. He wasn't going to let them intimidate him. "Why don't we find out?" he challenged, his voice steady. "I could use a real test." Talia's eyes narrowed, but a smirk played on her lips. "Very well, let's see if that suit is as powerful as you think." She raised her hand, and a swirl of green energy gathered in her palm. The air around her crackled with electricity as she launched a bolt of energy toward Alex. Instinctively, he activated the suit's defensive shields, and a shimmering barrier appeared in front of him, absorbing the attack. The students gasped, and even Talia seemed surprised. Alex didn't waste a second. He charged forward, using the suit's speed boost to close the distance between them. He landed in front of Talia before she could react, his hand reaching out to grab her wrist. He wasn't going to hurt her, but he wanted to prove a point. Talia's eyes widened as she struggled against his grip. You're actually strong," she muttered, her voice laced with disbelief. Before she could break free, Alex released her and stepped back, deactivating his shields. He wanted her to understand that he wasn't just a weak human with a powerful suit. He was capable, and he wasn't going to back down. The other students looked at each other, their expressions a mix of confusion and respect. They hadn't expected him to stand up to Talia, let alone withstand her attack. Alex took a deep breath, feeling a newfound confidence. This armor wasn't just a tool. It was a way for him to finally show that he belonged here. Talia composed herself, eyeing him with a newfound curiosity. "You may have more potential than I thought, Alex," she admitted, a grudging respect in her voice. "But don't think that makes you one of us." You've only scratched the surface of what you're up against." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, her companions following close behind. Alex watched them leave, a mixture of relief and exhilaration flooding his system. He knew he had made an impression, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. The Sentinel armor had given him a chance to stand on equal footing, but he was still an outsider in a world of magic. As he powered down the suit and exited the training room, he resolved to master the Sentinel and prove himself further. He would train harder than ever, not just to survive, but to thrive, and to show the Academy that he could be just as strong as any of them. Word spread quickly throughout the Academy about Alex's confrontation with Talia. Some students were intrigued, others wary, and a few were openly hostile. As the only human at the Academy, Alex had already been an outsider, but now he was attracting attention he hadn't anticipated. While the Sentinel armor made him powerful, it also made him a target. Over the following days, Alex kept to himself, focusing on training and exploring the capabilities of the armor. He often visited the Academy's training grounds in the early morning, well before most of the other students arrived. He didn't want to draw too much attention, but he knew he couldn't avoid his classmates forever. One morning, while Alex was working on refining the suit's agility functions, he heard footsteps approaching. He turned to see Talia, accompanied by two other students, Jarek, a towering figure who specialized in earth magic, and Kira, a petite student with control over water. They were some of the strongest students at the Academy, and their presence set Alex on edge. Talia spoke first, her voice unusually calm. "We need to talk, Alex." Alex straightened, his hand instinctively moving toward the control panel on his forearm. "About what?" Jarek crossed his arms, looking Alex over with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. "Word is, you're the real deal with that suit, but we don't trust you. How do we know you're not a threat to the Academy?" Kira nodded, her gaze sharp. "You've got an advantage, sure, but magic isn't just about power. It's about trust and balance. Right now, none of us are sure where you stand." Alex felt the weight of their stares, but he held his ground. "Look, I didn't ask for any of this," he replied. "But I'm not here to be a threat. I'm here to learn, just like all of you. The armor, it's just something that helps me keep up." Talia watched him closely. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we've been underestimating you. But if you want to be taken seriously, you'll need allies. This Academy isn't a place for loners. It's a place where strength is built through connections." Jarek glanced at Talia, surprised by her softened tone. "What are you saying, Talia?" Talia looked back at Alex, her eyes narrowing. "I'm saying that if you really want to prove yourself, you need to do more than just fight. You need to earn our trust." She took a step closer, extending her hand. "Join us in the team trials next week. It's a competition that requires cooperation and strategy, not just power. If you're willing to work with us, maybe we can show you a few things about magic, and you can show us what that suit can really do." Alex looked at her outstretched hand, considering her offer. He could feel the skepticism from Jarek and Kira, but he also saw a flicker of respect in Talia's eyes. The team trials were legendary at the Academy, a grueling test that required participants to rely on each other's strengths. For years, he had been treated as an outsider, and now he was being invited to join the Academy's strongest students in one of its most prestigious events. He shook her hand. "I'm in." Over the next few days, Alex trained with Talia, Jarek, and Kira, learning to combine his armor's capabilities with their magic. Talia specialized in illusions, casting elaborate spells that could deceive even the most trained eye. Jarek's earth magic allowed him to create barriers and launch boulders with ease, while Kira could summon water currents and manipulate them to her will. The training was intense, but Alex adapted quickly, finding ways to complement their powers with his suit's abilities. His armor's agility enhanced Jarek's powerful strikes, while the energy shields could protect Kira as she manipulated water into defensive formations. Talia's illusions were trickier to work with, but Alex soon realized that by activating his suit's cloaking feature, he could disappear completely within her illusions, creating a formidable combination that left their opponents scrambling. Despite his progress, there were moments of tension. Jarek was especially vocal about his mistrust, often questioning Alex's intentions. Kira was quieter, but her guarded expressions made it clear that she wasn't entirely comfortable with him yet. Talia, however, was beginning to see Alex in a new light. She was impressed by his adaptability and his willingness to learn, qualities that weren't immediately apparent when they first met. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Talia pulled Alex aside. "You're not like the others," she said, her voice thoughtful. "You're resilient, in a way that most of us aren't. We're used to relying on magic, but you're different. You've had to work twice as hard just to keep up." Alex shrugged, feeling a bit uncomfortable under her scrutiny. "I don't have much of a choice. If I don't keep up, I get left behind." Talia nodded. "Maybe that's why I think you might actually have a shot in the trials. Magic can make you strong, but it can also make you complacent. I've seen students fall apart because they've never had to push themselves beyond their comfort zones." Alex met her gaze, feeling a sense of solidarity that surprised him. "So, does that mean I'm officially part of the team?" Talia smirked. "We'll see. Just don't let us down." As the team trials approached, Alex found himself feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He knew he was about to face one of the most challenging tests of his life, but he also knew he wasn't alone. For the first time, he had allies. People who were willing to fight alongside him, even if they didn't fully trust him yet. When the day of the trials finally arrived, Alex stood with Talia, Jarek, and Kira at the edge of the training grounds. They watched as teams from all over the academy prepared, their robes and armor gleaming in the morning sun. The stakes were high, and Alex could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. He took a deep breath, glancing at his teammates. They might not fully trust him yet, but he was determined to prove his worth, not just to them, but to himself. He had come a long way since arriving at the academy, and he wasn't about to back down now. Talia stepped forward, her expression fierce. "Let's show them what we're made of." Alex activated the sentinel armor, feeling its familiar hum as it powered up. He nodded at his teammates, a determined smile on his face. "Let's do this." The team trials began with a blast of sound as the academy's trumpets blared, signaling the start of the competition. Alex, Talia, Jarek, and Kira stood in their designated area, their hearts pounding as they prepared to face the first challenge. The training grounds had been transformed into a sprawling maze filled with traps, obstacles, and magical creatures, all designed to test their skills, teamwork, and resilience. As the first trial commenced, the team moved into the maze, with Talia taking the lead. She cast an illusion to mask their presence, allowing them to slip past a group of gargoyle-like creatures patrolling the perimeter. Alex marveled at the seamless way she wove magic around them, blending them into the shadows. However, the illusion wasn't enough to keep them hidden for long, as the creatures soon picked up their scent. "Kira, we need a distraction," Talia whispered. Kira nodded, stepping forward and summoning a torrent of water that surged through the maze, scattering the creatures. The team moved quickly, using the confusion to slip deeper into the labyrinth. They faced numerous obstacles, from shifting walls to floors that collapsed into pits filled with magical energy. Each time, Alex found himself relying on his armor's agility and strength, leaping over chasms and shielding his teammates from bursts of energy. As they approached the next stage, a series of swinging pendulums stood between them and the door leading to the next trial. Jarek stepped forward, slamming his fists into the ground and causing massive stone walls to rise up, halting the pendulum's momentum. The team dashed forward, but just as they reached the door, a blast of energy struck Jarek, knocking him off balance. Alex rushed to his side, extending a hand to pull him up. "Are you okay?" Jarek grunted, brushing off the dust. "Yeah, thanks. Let's keep moving." The team entered the next chamber, where they were confronted by a group of shadowy figures, illusions crafted by the Academy's strongest conjurers. These illusions were designed to probe their fears and test their mental fortitude. The shadows morphed into shapes that struck fear into each of them. For Talia, it was a creature that symbolized failure. For Kira, it was a towering wall of water threatening to drown her. For Jarek, the shadows took the form of a collapsing mountain, reflecting his fear of losing control. When it was Alex's turn, he found himself staring at a figure from his past, a mentor who had doubted his potential, someone who had once told him he would never succeed without magic. The figure sneered at him, repeating the same scornful words. Alex clenched his fists, feeling the old hurt rise up. But this time, he didn't back down. He activated the armor's energy field, focusing on the determination that had brought him this far. The illusion shattered as he walked through it, his eyes fixed on the goal ahead. Seeing his resolve, Talia, Jarek, and Kira took strength from his example, breaking through their own illusions and regrouping on the other side. For a moment, they stood in silence, each of them shaken but stronger for having faced their fears. "Only one more trial to go," Kira said, her voice steady. Talia looked at Alex, a newfound respect in her eyes. "You're tougher than I gave you credit for, Alex." They moved into the final chamber, where a daunting task awaited them. Before them stood a towering construct of stone and metal, a golem powered by ancient magic. The golem was the last obstacle between them and the exit, and it immediately came to life, swinging its massive arms at the team. Jarek was the first to engage, using his earth magic to erect barriers and launch rocks at the golem. The golem retaliated, smashing through the barriers and sending Jarek sprawling. Kira followed up with a stream of water, trying to weaken the golem's joints, but its enchanted armor repelled her attacks. "Focus on its core!" Talia shouted, pointing to a glowing orb embedded in the golem's chest. Alex activated his armor's thrusters, launching himself into the air. He fired a concentrated energy blast at the core, but the golem's defenses absorbed it. Frustrated but undeterred, Alex signaled to the others. "We need to combine our strengths." Kira and Jarek nodded, positioning themselves on either side of the golem. Talia cast an illusion to distort the golem's vision, buying them precious seconds. Kira unleashed a wave of water, dousing the golem's core, while Jarek followed up with a barrage of rocks, cracking its armor. Alex seized the moment, charging forward and focusing all the armor's power into one final strike. He plunged his fists into the golem's core, feeling the surge of energy as the core shattered, and the golem crumbled into pieces. The team stood victorious, panting and covered in dust, but exhilarated by their victory. As the dust settled, a voice echoed through the chamber, announcing their success. They had completed the trials, proving themselves as one of the strongest teams in the academy. As they made their way back to the academy grounds, Alex felt a swell of pride. He had faced his fears, fought alongside his teammates, and come out stronger. The students who had once doubted him now looked at him with a mixture of awe and respect. Talia, Jarek, and Kira walked beside him, their camaraderie solidified by the challenges they had overcome together. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Alex felt like he truly belonged. He had earned his place, not just as the human with power armor, but as a warrior, a teammate, and a friend. He knew the trials were just the beginning, but he was ready for whatever came next, confident in his abilities and in the allies who now stood by his side. The news of Alex and his team's triumph spread quickly through the academy, and the victory had a ripple effect. Students who had once mocked Alex now whispered about him in the hallways, some even offering nods of respect as he passed by. But as much as the trials had proven their strength, Alex knew there was more at stake. They had been invited to participate in the final arena battle, a public showdown where the top teams of the academy would face off before a crowd of students, professors, and even the academy's mysterious overseers. The arena was vast and filled with spectators as Alex, Talia, Jarek, and Kira stepped onto the battle platform. Their opponents, an elite team known as the Fires of Syraxis, were renowned for their power and ruthlessness. The tension was thick as the announcer introduced both teams, the crowd's cheers filling the air. Alex looked at his team, nodding to each of them, a silent promise that they would face whatever came next together. As the battle began, the Fires of Syraxis attacked with an onslaught of fire and lightning. The team moved with precision, each member wielding an elemental power that seemed to cover every angle. Talia and Jarek sprang into action, countering with illusions and earth barriers, while Kira doused the flames with torrents of water. Alex stayed close, deflecting attacks and assessing their opponent's weaknesses. It was clear from the start that this fight would not be won through brute strength alone. The fires of Syraxis were powerful, but Alex knew their one advantage. They underestimated him. He could see it in their movements, the way they hesitated when he entered the fray. To them, he was still the human without magic, a mere distraction rather than a threat. He used this to his advantage, moving in and out of the battle with deceptive speed, drawing their fire away from his teammates. "Focus on their leader!" Talia shouted, gesturing towards a tall, armored figure at the back of the opposing team. "He's the one controlling their formation." Alex moved toward the leader, weaving through blasts of energy as he approached. The leader sneered, raising a hand to cast a powerful bolt of lightning, but Alex was ready. He activated his armor's energy shield, deflecting the bolt and charging forward. With a swift strike, he knocked the leader off balance, creating an opening for Jarek to unleash a boulder that sent the leader sprawling. The crowd roared as the fires of Syraxis faltered, their formation broken. But the battle was far from over. The other team quickly regrouped, retaliating with a fury that forced Alex and his team back. Talia's illusions distorted the battlefield, creating phantom images that confused their opponents, while Kira unleashed a wave that knocked two of their attackers off their feet. The two teams clashed, trading blow after blow, with neither side willing to yield. The arena trembled under the force of their powers, and for a moment, Alex wondered if they could truly hold their ground against such formidable opponents. But then he saw his teammates, their faces filled with determination, their eyes reflecting the same fierce resolve he felt. "Now!" Alex shouted, rallying his team for one final attack. They moved as one, each of them contributing their strength to the assault. Jarek unleashed a quake that shook the ground beneath their opponents, while Talia's illusions created a blinding flash of light. Kira summoned a torrent of water that swirled around the fires of Syraxis, leaving them momentarily disoriented. Seizing the moment, Alex surged forward, his armor glowing with a bright blue energy as he channeled all its power into his fists. He landed a powerful blow on their leader, who fell to the ground, defeated. The rest of the fires of Syraxis crumbled under the onslaught, and one by one, they surrendered. As the final bell rang, signaling their victory, the arena erupted in cheers. Alex and his team stood victorious, breathing heavily but triumphant. They had done it. They had overcome the Academy's strongest team, proving not only their strength, but the strength of their unity. After the battle, Alex and his team were hailed as heroes, their names celebrated by students and professors alike. The overseers of the Academy even approached them, expressing their admiration for the way they had fought. Alex could feel a sense of belonging he had never felt before, a connection to this place and these people who had once seemed so foreign. In the days that followed, Alex and his team continued to train, pushing themselves to new heights. He had earned the respect of his peers, but more importantly, he had earned a place among them, not just as a fighter, but as a friend and an ally. As he stood on the Academy's highest balcony, looking out over the vast landscapes of the galaxy, Alex felt a sense of peace. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, battles yet to be fought, but he was ready for whatever came next. He had proven that, with determination, resilience, and a little bit of armor, even the smallest spark could light the way to greatness. And as the stars shone brightly overhead, Alex knew that his journey was only beginning. He was no longer the underdog, the human struggling to survive in a world of magic. He was Alex, the warrior, the friend, the legend, and with his team by his side, he was ready to face any challenge the galaxy could throw at him.